How important is it to make the right decision? Very, if you are fighting the witch cult. Having someone that can do that at your helm is essential in winning any conflict, because not everybody has a mercenary brigade like Crush. But Emilia has something better, an army of impressionable miners. This video is about Subaru not as a character but as an asset, because he is a game changer in the future conflicts that Emilia camp will fight against, especially with the new Season 3 teaser that highlights both the royal selection and the new witch cult bishops that they will face. If you look at the current roster of isekai protagonists, Subaru is an anomaly. The vast majority of fantasy and isekai protagonists are what we consider action heroes, people who do the fighting, specifically sword-wielding soft boys. This is mostly due to how Japan views fantasy settings, which is predominantly viewed using the lens of JRPGs like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, from the same starting towns to the weirdly nationally sized adventure guild systems. It is pretty obvious where the inspiration comes from. I mean, is it really immersion breaking not having a pop-up menu for your fantasy anime? But this detail does say a lot on how these fantasy animes are constructed. The creative environments all use the same tropes and ideas, which isn't a bad thing, but it does make for some awkward situations. Isekai being so predominant actually brought some level of spice by trying to slightly change the idea of what a protagonist can be. It is still very machismo-centric as they are still mostly action heroes, but now we have repairmen, cooks, harem farmers, and lesbian princesses as protagonists. But when ReZero first came out, it was quite the innovation of not having an action hero as a protagonist. Heck, it was so jarring that it spawned an army of haters as it went against the idea of isekai wish fulfillment. So if Subaru isn't an action hero, what is he? Can we even figure that out? Well, to answer your question, we have to look at TRPGs, specifically Dungeons and Dragons. When you play a TRPG, in the first few levels, a lot of the problems you and your friends will face are very simple. Kill this, destroy that. Eventually, due to how powerful the players become, there is a need by the DM to introduce power creep to keep the story interesting. The Band of Thieves becomes an international criminal organization, corrupt royal guards eventually become a kingdom-wide conspiracy, or the crazy cultist arc ends with the party fighting the very gods those cultists worship. Something that can't be solved with one kill quest and tries to utilize all the accrued skills of the party. JRPGs and by extension isekai and fantasy anime tries to solve this problem usually by extensive violence. Subaru does not have this luxury. After all, he isn't Reinhardt. Even then, you can't kill people to destroy intangible things like corruption or extremist ideology like the witch cult, so he simply has to make the right decision every time. After dying in every horrible way, of course. But even with unlimited tries, he cannot do everything by himself. So that's why he needs a team that can. Due to Subaru's success, he's little by little becoming heated as the person that always makes the right calls on the worst moments. As the audience, we know that Subaru has returned by death, and he's running trial and error in everything he does like a game of Dark Souls. However, from the other character's point of view, this guy is literally making every right decision, and for some reason, always says the right words to the right person, which is impressive and inspires a lot of confidence. Subaru is a hero that creates the right conditions for victory, but he can't personally solve every problem that they have. That's why he needs a party that can do so. The guy is recruiting extremely capable people that somehow solves the main problem that they are having at the current time. Otto, Garfield, and Beatrice, for example. I mean, Puck and Roswell can be counted as that as well, but due to many obvious reasons, they are very unreliable. And when you see what they're up against, a political crisis of succession about the future monarch of the kingdom and fighting a religious insurgency, it's not exactly something you could say can be solved by winning via extreme violence. If that was the case, Reinhardt and Feldkamp should be the clear winner hands down. The future conflicts will bring problems that most people cannot perceive or comprehend, but having someone who simply is so smart or so lucky to make the right decision every time makes to be a step to the right direction. And that is the thing, right? The problem with handling terrorist organizations like the witch cult or political crises like the royal selection is that it's a high-stakes combat in all fronts. From actual combat in the form of witch cult incursions and diplomatic combat with the dealings with the royal selection, it is a sustained conflict with a lot of unknowns and an environment where one mistake may explode into an avalanche of bad effects. For example, during Season 1, the failure of negotiations with Cruz during the whale crisis, saying the wrong words cost them an army and the opportunity to beat both the whale and Betelgeuse witch cult contingent, leading to the deaths of most of the Emilia camp. One decision cost all of that. That's not even counting the other right decisions he needed to make after, like maintaining good relations with Wilhelm, Julius, Cruz, Annalisa, and all that stuff. More than just how great the journey is for Subaru, from being an extremely flawed person towards someone that is so good that there are a lot of videos about his character in YouTube, Subaru had to also develop as a workable asset in the constant conflicts the Emilia camp has to face, from the witch cultist attacks to the other rivals of the royal selection. Subaru is the best protagonist this anime can find in fighting the witch cult. After all, how do you beat a terrorist organization in real life? But the real answer is coin dynamics. If you're still here and wondering about the coin photo, that was the US plan for the pacification of Afghanistan. Coin as in standing for counterinsurgency, so this was basically an operational military level plan. I was originally thinking that this video would go in the direction that Subaru would theorize a counterinsurgency mechanic or plan in order to deal with a witch cult, like a terrorist organization in real life. But the more I thought about it, it's just like, this guy is not that smart. Most likely gonna happen is just gonna end up in the right place at the right time, and then, you know, anything beyond being in the right place at the right time is just fan fiction thinking. So that's how the video went.